Anyway, we're really honored today to have our guest speaker today, Dr. Gary Truce, and who has done all kinds of amazing things. So, at the risk of spending a little more time, he sent me some information, and just to give you a sense of the breadth of his activities and interests and so forth. So he's now retired from the university. We were commenting, both of us enjoying that. But he was a professor of health and wellness studies in the College of Nursing and Health Sciences. The courses that he's taught include psychophysiology, awareness, health, human behavior, society, health and personal fitness, running and health awareness, parapsychology studies, international dance. The list goes on. So he got his doctorate from the University of West Virginia with a concentration in psychology relating to human behavior. He studied mind and body extensively, becoming internationally known as a motivator, consultant, and so forth. He's been a sports psychologist for the New York Jets, the Washington Redskins, the Oakland Raiders, National Football League, other teams. He's worked with race car drivers, wrestlers, golfers, basketball players, etc. U.S. Olympic Committee. He's also a professional hypnotist. And he's been widely interviewed. He's written a couple of books that can be found on Amazon. So anyway, I'm humbled by this this list of things, but we're really happy to have you here, Gary.
Thank you very much, John. A pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Yeah, John mentioned that I've been involved with several different things, and he mentioned I wrote a couple of books, and I'll just quickly show you the books that you can find them on Amazon. This first book I wrote is called Shelley and Rhoda. Actually, this is a local ghost story that was a true story that I investigated for 14 years. And Shelley and Rhoda, this is on Amazon. And the more recent book is my book called Voices on Visions. And this is a book of poetic prose type writing of the short stories and interesting things. I look at this book, I pick it up and read it myself several times because I'm in awe that I actually wrote what I wrote in this book. I don't even know where the information came from. I look back at it and I think, I don't know if I could ever write another book like that. But so that's Voices on Visions. And probably another book that I will recommend that related somewhat to what I'm going to be talking about today on exercise, diet, nutrition, sleep, and all of that is a book that you may have heard of called Younger Next Year. And the authors are Chris Crowley and Henry Lodge. And it's a fantastic book. I would really recommend this to anybody, but I suppose you can find this either at Barnes & Noble or probably on Amazon as well. But it's called Younger Next Year. And so, okay, now I want to get started with the whole conversation about what we're going to be dealing with here today. I think all of us know that we would like to live as long as we possibly can and have a good life along the way. And so I've looked into the whole aspect and the studies into longevity, and I've come up with some very interesting things. There's a guy named Daniel Buettner that wrote a book called The Blue Zones. And what he did, he took blue magic marker and he just circled the different places in the world where people were living longer than almost anywhere else on the face of the earth. And some of the places were like Sardinia, Icaria, Costa Rica. There's one region of Costa Rica where people are living over 100 years old, longer than any other place in the world. Another place is in the Himalayan mountains where the Hunzakuts live, a group of people that live 10,000 feet up in the mountains, and very interesting lifestyle. And so there's similarities between many of these different places. And some of the similarities that they're finding are, first of all, that people move a lot more than we do. Not moving their homes or anything like that. I mean, they're very active. Farming is still a big thing. There's a group of people in Mexico called the Pima Indians, live way up in the mountains, and they still plow their fields by hand. And the kids run 10 miles or so to get to school, and they run back home again. And the same thing in certain places in Kenya. And people do their own gardening, and the foods that they eat are directly from the gardens and from the trees. They pick the plants, put them on the table, and this is how they eat. We'll draw some differences between how these people live and how we live. Another thing that they find is social sense of community is very important. The social interaction with their friends and neighbors and people that they live around. They have lack of stress as compared to the kind of stress that we may have in our society. They live a simple existence, but they're very active. They move. They don't go to gyms and exercise like we are kind of think we have to go to a gym and exercise. They don't. They do all of their exercise and movement around their homes. Like I said, gardening and walking. And in Sardinia, it's a very hilly country, a very hilly area. So when they walk, they are going constantly up and down hills. They're moving regularly. But like I said, the foods that they eat are very important. That they're mainly fruits and vegetables. They'll eat beans and they'll eat grains. They don't eat a lot of meat. The only meat that they might eat in some of these locations are only on holidays, where they'll maybe slaughter a lamb or something like that, or they'll cut up some chickens, and on a certain holiday they may eat meat. But other than that, they don't eat that much in the form of meat. Now, there's one area in the United States called Loma Linda, California, where there's more people there over 100 years old than anywhere else in the United States. Loma Linda, California. And all of these people, or most of them, not all of them, are very strict vegetarians. Not vegans. There's a little difference between being a vegan and a vegetarian. Vegetarian still allows themselves to eat some eggs, or they'll drink some milk products or animal products, on occasion. But for the most part, they're vegetarian, plant eaters. So we know that in the studies that have been done, people that are plant eaters seem to have less cholesterol. They've got better good cholesterol in the body, HDL cholesterol. They've got much less LDL cholesterol. It's almost unheard of in many of these people. So they've got less clogging of the arteries, which of course relates to cardiovascular disease. They've got lower triglycerides, which is the fats in the blood. It's so low as compared to people that are the big meat eaters. But also, you look at the way the way our society has developed in America now, as compared to these places where Loma Linda, California, and they also in Loma Linda, they really believe in exercise. So and like I said, in all these places around the world, they're getting a lot more exercise than people in America are doing. But look at what's happened in our society over the years. We had in the 50s, the fast food industry came in, and we began eating fast foods. This was hamburgers and French fries, and was the main thing. And if we continue a diet like that, chances are we won't live very long. As a matter of fact, we know the people that are the big hamburger, French fries, and fast food eaters have much less lifespan. And some of them are dying at very early ages. So, but look what else has happened now. The computer was invented, and cell phones and all of this. We're sitting more than ever before. And a sit-down society is not good. Look at how many hours I even find myself sitting from, if I start to turn the news on at night, at 5:30 or so in the evening. Now they have news, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and they mix it up a little bit so that it's not the same exact thing at 5 o'clock as 5:30 and 6 o'clock. And we kind of think we're missing something. If we don't see maybe all three of the newses, then the nightly news comes on. We want to see what's going on in the world, so we watch the nightly news. There's another half hour gone. Then something else comes on. They don't even do advertisements in between one show ending and another one starting. They immediately start in another one. Then they'll throw the advertisements in along the way. It's a way to keep us connected to that television. I have a book at home also that's one of the best books I've ever bought, called 5 Reasons to End Television. And it really makes good sense, because it has made us a population of people that sit all evening long. And talk about social interactions. You're even afraid to go visit somebody. You know, years ago when we were all growing up, like in the 40s, the 50s, the early 60s, it would be nothing to just pop in on somebody and say hello to them and visit. But now we think we have to almost have to make an appointment, because we don't want to interrupt them. We might be interrupting their better TV shows. And so we're actually afraid to even communicate and interact and just stop in and visit people like we used to years ago. And then, of course, the computer, which made us sit many more hours at work. We know that we are sitting so many hours of the day, 11, 12, 13 hours of the day. We're constantly sitting. Every time we sit like this, our muscles, ligaments, tendons, everything is shortening in our bodies. We wonder why we've got bad backs. And it's because the main cause of the bad back is not that you injured it somewhere along the line. It's mainly because we have lost the ability to stretch the muscles in the back. The more we sit, the more we contract all of our muscles in the center of the body. The body actually begins to move further like this. You look at people as they get over. How many people do you see that are actually hunched over? So the gravitational pull is pulling on us constantly. From little kids on, gravity is pulling and pulling. When we weaken the musculature of the middle part of the body then begins to come down further and further. That's why when you see people getting older, they're walking around like this. They can't even straighten up anymore. And I know it because certain people that I worked with over the years have come into that same condition right now. They can't even straighten up. So something else that is very important is keeping our body posture the best we possibly can, keeping a nice upright position. But the more we sit, the more we, again, weaken all of these muscles and the ligaments and the tendons that pull us forward, further and further forward, and we begin to lose our spinal posture. And we know that posture is very important because it keeps our musculature strong, keeps us in place. It does not constrict the internal organs of the body. And this is what happens when we come down further and further into a bad posture position. So we know that even our posture is affected by sitting. And when you're sitting in front of a computer and you're working like this, you can see where are your shoulders. They're forward like this, continually advocating a position that is going to begin to move further and further forward. So there's all of these problems related to our spinal alignment and our body posture as a result of sitting. But then we've got something else. Have you ever heard of something called crook neck? Crook neck is when you see someone walking down the street and their heads are out in front of their bodies like this. And I see this. You go to a place, I used to go to Atlantic City, and I should have taken my video camera to videotape some of these people. You see all kinds of body postures. You see some that are like works of art. Their body posture is perfect. And you see these people walk by, it's fantastic. You see little kids go by, their body posture is fantastic. But then you see some of the older people go by, their bodies are down like that, their heads are out in front of them as they're walking like this. And this is all a result of what we're doing as being a look-down society. Look at what we do. We cut our food, we look down to cut our food, we eat our food like this, we look at our cell phones constantly like this, And this all plays in to what they call crook neck and also relating to a poor posture. So I don't want to talk too much more about posture and all of that because I want to get into a little bit more of what this talk is all about. But we're also talking about longevity. Our diets and what we're putting into our bodies is creating what's called free radical damage. Free radicals are molecules or atoms with missing electrons. And as a result of it, it's like taking one of your arms and ripping it off. But you want two arms. So in your cells of your body, these free radicals are grabbing another part of another cell and grabbing another part. Like I want Sally's arm, I want Susan's arm, and so what I'm doing is I'm breaking apart the cellular structure around me. And this is what free radical damage is. It's an oxidation process. When we have oxygen in our bodies and or air, look what happens to a banana. This is a perfect example of an oxidation process. Where you take a look at an apple, you eat an apple, but very shortly it turns brown. You look at the banana, it doesn't take long before it turns brown. That's because the air is creating oxidation. So this then begins to damage the cellular structure of the bodies. So the same thing goes on in the body. It's the same thing that goes on with the rust of your car. You start a little bit of rust on your automobile. Oh, you can take it to the shop and tell them to fix it up. I've done that a couple of times with my own car. And, it lasts for maybe 11 or 12 months. And then it's just as bad as it ever was. So it doesn't last. Once rust starts, it begins this deterioration process further and further. That's exactly what goes on in the cellular structure of the body. We have two things that go on in our bodies. Number one is growth. You're growing from the time you're in the womb, and you're growing and growing and growing. We're born, we're continually growing and growing and growing. And, when people say you're over the hill at the age of 30, you're not really over the hill at the age of 30. You're actually starting on it beforehand. We know as far as our movement potential is concerned, we're losing our movement potential after the age of 14. And again, it's because of our lifestyle. Kids are gaining weight because they're eating more and more of the fast foods. And they're on their cell phones constantly. They're sitting behind computers. They're watching television. They're gaining weight after the age of 14, except for maybe some of those kids that get involved with swimming, wrestling, athletics, dance, and those kinds of activities where they really keep their flexibility again. And they don't age as quickly as other people that are already starting after 14. As far as our muscular development is concerned, we develop that up until our brain development. We develop that until, our brains are not fully developed until about 25 or 26. But our muscular development begins to diminish after 25 or 26. That's why you can see the fastest people in the world, Usain Bolt and some of these Olympic sprinters who are the fastest people in the world up until about the age of 25. 26, they're not quite as fast anymore. 27, 28, 29, 30, you don't find very many sprinters that are 30 years old anymore because they've already lost some of their muscular development. We continue to lose it unless we continue to use it. So, like I said, there's two things that happen. We have growth up until about the age of 26, 27 years old. And if you use your body, you can keep the growth going. But if we don't use our body, then decay begins to set in. We've got growth and we've got decay. We don't want our bodies to decay, so the only thing we can do is continue to use our bodies. Now, the other thing, when I was talking about free radical damage to the cellular structure of the body, there's something else that relates to longevity. This is called telomeres. I don't know if you've ever heard of telomeres, but these are at the end of your chromosomes. Telomeres are like taking a shoestring from your shoe And you know the plastic tip at the end of the shoestring? This is what telomeres are, that they're the ends of your chromosomes. But when we have a terrible diet, we smoke, we drink a lot of alcohol, a little alcohol every once in a while is no problem, glass of wine, that type of thing. But people that are big drinkers, alcohol, all the substance abuse that people are getting into, is destroying the telomeres. They call these telomeres like it's like the time clock of life. So as long as we can keep those telomeres long, that's great. Our lifespan stays long, but our habits and our behaviors can shorten the telomeres. Even lack of sleep creates free radical damage in the body. Stress creates free radical damage. As a matter of fact, just living creates free radical damage, but not as much as people that have bad lifestyle habits. So we want to try to avoid this. And we know that certain things shorten the telomeres. It's like taking a shoestring and fraying it at the end, you know, the plastic tip. So it gets shorter and shorter and becomes destroyed. We've got approximately 50 times where our entire cellular structure divides in our bodies. But we can delay those times of cells dying out and then rejuvenating. So we've got about 50 cell divisions going on in a lifetime. But when we have a better lifestyle and you eat your fruits and vegetables and beans and grains and some nuts and seeds, and you avoid the fast food industry, you avoid a lot of the high diets and heavy in meat and cigarette smoking, stress, and all of this type of thing, you then continue to keep the telomeres lengthened. One more thing that keeps them lengthened is this. There's an enzyme in your body called telomerase, Telomerase. Telomerase, they never thought there was anything that could keep the telomeres lengthened. Telomerase rejuvenates the telomeres. And they found this out just recently in the past 8 or 9 years. Telomerase is an enzyme in your body that's released when we are people that are caring, compassionate, and we are calm, and we're kind, and we also have laughter and humor in our lives. We find that laughter and humor and people that are kind and caring, we like it. It does something to us to be good people. People that are angry all the time, people that are highly stressed, highly anxious, these are the kinds of people that have further shortening of the telomeres. So telomerase can keep us very healthy. And that is kindness, caring, compassion, being a good person, keeping the stress off our shoulders if we can, and laughing. Find things to laugh at and have humor and use your sense of humor. We know that everybody has it, but a lot of people stop using it. And the older they get, they stop using their sense of humor. So this all relates to longevity. Exercise also relates to longevity. But like I said, you don't have to be a person that goes to the gym. I don't go to the gym myself that often. And I'm not into heavy weightlifting. We find that even sometimes the heavier we lift the weights, the more structure damage it seems to do to certain people. We don't need to lift heavy weights. All we need to do is exercise our bodies in any way that we can. I wake up and I do most of my exercises in bed before I even step on the floor in the morning. I can do abdominal crunches. I can do all my stretches in bed. There's one stretch that anybody can do. It's called a yawn stretch. You just yawn. You move your body in every possible direction you can use it, like you're yawning. And then you can pull on your legs. You can set up a set of stretches that you like to do that covers many different muscle areas in your body, your upper body, your shoulders, your legs, your hips, all of these kinds of things. If this was a workshop, I would show you how to do it. But I can push on my knees. I can lay on my back and push on my knees and squeeze my arms in like this and push out with my legs, squeeze in with my arms, push out with my legs, and I'm exercising all of the muscles in my upper body. I can lay on my back and I can pull on one arm like this, and I'm exercising all of the muscles in my right arm. Then I'll switch to the left arm and I'll do the same thing. I'll do some simple abdominal crunches. And if we're too old to do abdominal crunches, just lay on your back and pull your knees towards your chest. You're still working your abdominal muscles. You can push into the bed and you're working the triceps of your body. You can exercise every muscle in your body before you even get out of bed in the morning. And with the stretching, we know that flexibility is a big part of a total physical fitness program. You can do all of that in bed as well. And then you get out of bed, maybe you stretch the backs of your legs against the wall or something like that. And, you've got a complete program. Well, like I said, if this was a workshop, I would show you more of that. But so that's a big part of being involved with activity. Walking is very important. We don't have to be a runner. I was a long distance runner all my life. I've probably run around the world a few times already. But walking is great. When people get a little bit older, sometimes they get a little arthritic conditions. And arthritis, by the way, a lot of arthritis is caused by improper diet. The more sweets, the more sugars, the more candies we have, the more of all of that we eat, the more this is not playing into a good nutritional program. Remember now also, the body has to grow. And to grow, it's just like feeding a plant. You have to feed it nutrients. A plant will die, it will decay if it's not fed. We know that every single muscle in our body has to be fed. Not muscles, our ligaments, our cartilage, our tendons, our hair, our nails. Every cell of everything in your body has to be fed. Where is the nutrients in cookies, candies, cakes, pies, rolls, donuts, chips, and dips? And this is what we eat. Pizza, there's almost no nutrients in pizza other than maybe a little tomato sauce and a few mushrooms on the top of the pizza. But other than that, there's no nutrients. But we're filling ourselves up with cookies, candies, cakes, pies, pizza. I remember when I was going to college back in the 1960s, early 60s, there was only one pizza shop in town, the Pizza King. Now there's pizza places everywhere. I see people in my neighborhood, they're bringing pizza in day by day. I mean, these people must be eating pizzas 3-4 times a week. The pizza guy brings the pizzas to their houses, and I saw their kids as they were growing up. They used to live right across the street from me. The kids had good little bodies when they were little kids growing up. But by the time they were already getting to be 7, 8, 9 years old, they were getting plump. The parents were both way overweight. And I kept thinking every day that pizza guy came to their house, these kids are going to get fat too. And they did. They became unbelievably obese by the time they were teenagers. Like I said, there's no nutrients. There's everything just the opposite of what we want. The only place we get the real nutrients in our body is by eating the plants. The plants give us everything we need. So again, if a person says, can you recommend a diet to me? I'll just say fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, and nuts and seeds. Berries. If we have fruits for breakfast, fantastic. Pancakes, there's nothing in pancakes. I saw a guy the other day at a restaurant. He was unbelievably heavy. He had to be over, I'd say, at least 600 pounds. He couldn't even get out of a chair. I saw the food he was eating. He had a stack of pancakes and other things to go with it. I saw he had home fries, he had pancakes, and all of this fake maple syrup. It's not even real maple syrup. At least we get a little bit of nutrient in a real maple syrup. But this guy was putting that fake sugary maple syrup all over his pancakes. And I thought, oh my gosh. And he could barely get out of his chair. And he wasn't even that old. And he's walking with a walker like this, and I thought, guy's not even going to live very long. And I do a lot of hypnosis work, and I work with people that break habits and addictions. And I just tell you a little story. A lady from Pennsylvania called me one day on the phone, and she said she had a cute voice and everything, and she said, you worked with one of our friends about a year ago, and she lost 100 pounds. I said, oh, that's great. She said, but my mother and I would like to know if we could come and see you, and maybe you could help us lose some weight. So I said, yeah, come on up, So they came up, and I saw the station wagon pull up out in front of my house this one day. And when the people were getting out of the car, it was like watching Twilight Zone on television. The neighbor lady next door was hanging clothes, and I saw her looking over the clothesline like this. And the little kids riding bicycles on the street, they stopped and they were looking at something. I didn't know what they were looking at because the ladies got out of the other side of the car. But when they got out, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. So one lady walked up to my house. She was the mother of the girl that called. The girl that called was only 35 years old, but the lady that got out of the car, I found out she weighed 491 pounds. But that's not so bad. The 35-year-old that got out of the car, I could barely get her in the house. As a matter of fact, she broke my couch. I had to get a new couch after she left. But she weighed 654 pounds. My couch was probably the same size as this. She took up more than you two people sitting there, right there on the couch. Her thighs were hanging on the ground. And her arms were as big as my whole body. And I couldn't believe it, and I asked the mother when I couldn't work with them all. I had to bring them into the house one by one. I brought the small one in first, who lost 100 pounds. She was now 269 instead of 369. But then when the mother came in, and I asked the mother, I said, how did this happen? How did you all gain so much weight? And the mother said, well, maybe it's the way we were conditioned as kids. I said, what do you mean conditioned? She said, well, my husband, every time the kids were bad, they could only have one apple or one egg in a day's time. And that's if they were bad kids. So the kids were good kids all the time. But the father would say, oh, you can have donuts, you can have candy, whatever you want. So that's where it probably started with the kids. But I asked the mother, I said, what did you people eat yesterday, for example, for breakfast? What did you have? And the mother said, oh, we don't usually eat breakfast. I've had people tell me that too. I don't eat breakfast. I hardly eat anything, but I keep gaining all this weight. I thought that's what I was going to hear, but this is what I actually heard. The mother said, well, yesterday for breakfast, we started eating maybe around 11 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay, what did you have? She said, well, for breakfast, they had, pizza for breakfast. I said, you mean you had one piece of pizza? She said, no, we both had a large pizza. My daughter ate a large one and I ate a large one. I said, you mean a large piece? No, the whole pizza. And then she said, and we had a quart of Coke to drink with that. That was breakfast. So I said, well, when did you have lunch, or when's the next time you ate? She said, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, well, what'd you have at 2? She said, well, we sent out for some donuts. I said, how many donuts did you eat? She said, I had a dozen. My daughter ate a dozen. I said, well, did you have dinner? She said, yeah, we had some veggies and we had some meat for dinner. I said, well, that sounds pretty good. Was that it for the day? She said, no, at 10 o'clock last night, I ate a half a gallon of ice cream, and so did my daughter. And we had another quart of Coke to drink with that. That was one day of eating in their lives. Where's the nutrients? Absolutely none. I try to stay in touch with the people after I work with them to see how they were doing. The daughter lost 50 pounds right off the bat. I mean, in 2 months' time, She was down like 50 pounds. But then she reversed it again because she was going through a divorce and blamed it on her husband and all of that. And she gained the weight back. And then I found out a little bit later that year, the daughter died of a massive heart attack. She couldn't even walk across the room. If she walked from here to that couch, she'd be totally exhausted. And the mother even said she's splitting apart on the inside of her body. She said she's had to go and have surgeries to sew her back together because her body was ripping apart from the inside. This is how terrible it can get. How can it even get that way? But it does. But absolutely no nutrients. If we don't have the nutrients, our cellular structure is going to break down. Our bones are going to break down. Our joints are going to deteriorate. Why is it that we've got so many joint replacements anymore? And we never used to hear of this. It's a good thing that we do because it has given people a bit of a new life. But it shouldn't be happening in the first place unless a person really damaged that joint someplace along the line in their lives. And then maybe the joint, has created some problems. But other than that, our overweight, our non-nutrition to our joints and our ligaments, tendons, bones, cartilage, everything, fingernails, hair, all of this is dependent upon real nutrients. Now, something else with real nutrients, we've got something called living enzymes. They're found in all of our fruits and vegetables. Living enzymes. We've got all the enzymes ready to be taken into the body and go right to work. We don't even need digestive enzymes. We've got digestive enzymes. We've got metabolic enzymes. All of these are meant to break down the food so that our body can utilize them. But fruits and vegetables and berries and strawberries and raspberries and all of these things, they come right into the body and they go right to work. They don't even need any further breakdown. All the enzymes are in them. This is called living enzymes. Watermelon, cantaloupe, all has the living enzymes in them. Now, what happens if we cook our foods? We start to lose more and more of the living enzymes. It's normal to cook our foods. We've been conditioned to do that. But human beings long ago, before they ever invented fire, never had to cook the food. I mean, they found it. If they found an apple tree someplace, they'd eat all the apples they could eat until they were full because they didn't know when they were going to eat again. We were fruitarians when humans first started. Then we learned how to cook. Maybe we found that they put a dead animal over a fire. They found an animal that was in the fire. They might have started to eat some of it and found that it tasted pretty good. That's probably where we started to learn how to eat cooked meats. So anyways, if we could eat a raw foods diet, I don't recommend that because most people would never stay with it. I mean, a few people would, but most people never would. But I still try to eat at least, and I recommend people to eat at least 1/3 of your diet every day should be raw foods. And it can be done. I mean, we don't cook our salads. You eat spinach and you eat kale and lettuce and tomatoes. We don't cook our tomatoes and put them in a salad. So even if we ate a big salad once a day and we had some fruit for breakfast, we don't cook our fruit. We're getting our living enzymes. We're getting something that keeps us alive, that helps us grow, not decay. If we're not getting those nutrients, our body decays. So we've got to have the living enzymes. We don't cook our watermelon. Who would ever eat cooked watermelon? We don't cook our cantaloupe, And so it's unnatural to eat anything other, actually, than raw foods. But we like the taste of cooked foods. I like it. If I go to somebody's house and they have a nice dinner, I eat that. I cook some of my foods. I don't want to eat raw eggs. I'm gonna cook my eggs, and it's natural that we do that. But even if we get 1/3 of our diet as something that's raw, fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, it's going to really boost our lives. Now, I know somebody in this room right now that likes fruits, and I know he eats his vegetables, and I don't know how old the oldest person is in this room right now. Anybody here in your 90s yet? Oh yeah, Jim, that guy right there. He's 98 years old. And but the interesting thing about him is when people wonder how does somebody live to be this age? He and I hang out together a lot. We go to concerts, we go to activities, we go to sports events. I don't know how many football games I've gone to with him. He still drives to these games, and he's a good driver. And he laughs at things. He likes funny things. He likes things to laugh at. So when I talk about humor and laughter, and I mean, he's had tragic things happen in his life as well. Loss of a wife, loss of a son, and all that. But still, he makes himself get into the game of life. And he's living it. He moves. He walks better than I do. and he's fantastic. But I also see that he eats those vegetables and he eats fruits and he likes these things. And I think that could be part of the reason that he's doing quite well at 98 years old.
I'll say that if I known I was going to live this long, I was taking better care of myself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Sure.
this was my ski partner up until maybe 5-6 years ago. And I'm more than I'm 25 years younger, and I had to slow him down to keep up with the ski partner.
Yeah, I know he told me he did downhill skiing until he was like 89 years old. So, and he was a football official for many years, 30 some years as a football official. He worked with hockey and all of that type of thing in developing people. So he skated, he ran up and down the football field, for 30 some years, and until he retired from being a football referee, an official. And I think all of that really helped keep his life moving on. It surely does wonders for the heart, the exercise, the movement, it develops the heart. It clears cholesterol out of your veins and arteries. So, it's fantastic. So our diets are extremely important. And I'm going to leave this open also for some discussion if you have any questions coming up here. But as far as our diet is concerned, and I might even have a sheet here that I recommend for some people dealing with diet nutrition. I broke it down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is like a vegetarian diet: fruits, vegetables, beans, grains, nuts, and seeds. And that's mainly phase 1 for anybody that wants to eat that way. But I also put phase 2, where we can allow small amounts of meats, any of the different kinds of meats if you want. If you want a little fish, you want a little turkey, you want a little red meat, you can have it in small amounts, but it's recommended no more than about the size of a chicken breast, maybe the back of your hand, like that, about 4 ounces of meat in a day's time. But the less we get involved with eating a lot of meat and more of the fruits and vegetables, we're going to be better off. We're cleaning the arteries. We're creating good cholesterol. And the more we move and walk and be active, and even if it's gardening or just moving around the house, not sitting, the more we're exercising and doing wonders for our bodies. If we don't use it, if we don't walk, if we don't try to move, if we don't try to stretch, if we don't do something to keep ourselves loose, we lose it again. Remember, we either use it or we lose it. And so phase 1 is vegetarian. Phase 2 is allowing a little bit of meat. Phase 3 is cookies, candies, cakes, pies, rolls, donuts, chips, dips, all the way down the line. Ice creams, which are filled with mainly a lot of sugar and some artificial sweetener, tastes and all of that. And a lot of the maple syrups. Maple syrup is great. I love maple syrup, but only sparingly real maple syrup, but not like day by day. Don't use a lot of it. Honey, the same thing. Honey's good. It does have some nutrients if it's raw honey, because there's other honey that can be processed honey, and all of the nutrients are kind of gone. It's like eating sugar. So honey is good if it's raw honey, but again, only a small amount. Don't have to have it every day. So because it converts to sugar in the body, just like everything else. Same thing, that white flour in the pizza, that converts to sugar in the body. We know that diabetes is running rampant in our country right now. It's moving up the line as becoming one of the top killers in America. People are having legs and feet amputated and losing their eyesight, all because of diabetes. It doesn't have to happen. I mean, there is type 1 that a person's born with, but even that can be under control by watching carefully what we do with our diets. But type 2 is self-created. So the more pizzas, white flour products, non-nutrient substances we're putting into our bodies, the more we are decaying and not rebuilding. Remember, the body can be rebuilt. We even know that a person in their 90s, if they choose to start lifting weights again, or they start exercising, even if it's pulling muscle against muscle and not lifting weights, this is weightlifting. I'm creating my own muscle workout right here. If I'm doing some squats like this, getting up and down, this is weight workout. I'm lifting my own body weight, 160 pounds going up and down. If I'm pushing on my legs while I'm laying on my back and I'm exercising my arms, this is weight workout. And when it comes to osteoporosis, a lot of people think you need to drink a lot of milk, a lot of milk. No, they're finding out that the more milk we drink, sometimes the more osteoporosis people are getting. The bones need density. What gives them density is weight-bearing exercise. So the more you go up and down steps, the more you ride a bicycle, a stationary bicycle, the more you walk, the more you do some squats, all of these types of things, the more you're pulling muscle against muscle. This is weight-bearing exercise. It keeps the bones dense. We lose that density, we get osteoporosis, men and women. So we want to keep everything growing, building, and our foods are the main things that make that happen. And whatever we can do in exercise, make your exercise fun. It should be play. Exercise should not be agony. It should be play. We did it when we were kids. Kids don't even need any exercise. They get it just by playing. But the problem nowadays is kids are playing video games instead of playing running games. They're sitting and they're playing and eating pizza. Mom, I want pizza, and they're getting fatter. And I don't know what society is going to look like 25 years from now. It's not going to be a good scene if we don't do something, but we're playing into it more and more. Now we're coming up with artificial intelligence. This is all the worse. We don't even have to get up and answer the phone and do this and that anymore. We don't even have to change the knob on the TV. And, we can just say, hey, Siri, turn that channel on, And it's crazy. What's going to happen yet in the future? We're already getting to the point we don't even have to steer our cars in the future. It's going to be done for us. What are we going to do to help our bodies build and grow? We're going to decay further and further. And if we don't use our bodies, we burn out our brain. Our brain is reliant on our ability to move and the foods we eat. There's absolutely no nutrients going to the brain when we eat a junk food diet. It has to be fed real whole foods. And I don't know what's going to happen 50 years. Jim doesn't know if there's going to be much of a society, much left in 50 years. And I've heard him talk about that. And sometimes I think, boy, the way we're going, if we don't do something about our behavior and our conduct and our ethics and our bodies, what's going to be around in 50 years' time? So Well, the last part of what I want to talk about, we talked a little bit about our diets, we talked a little bit about exercise, and one more thing that plays into all of this is our sleep. We have to have proper sleep. As people get older, sometimes they don't have proper sleep. Some people do. I don't have any real problems sleeping unless I talk and talk and talk to myself before I go to bed. I mean, while I'm lying in bed, I want to shut off the lights to the world when I go to bed and just sleep. There's nothing I can do about anything anyways. Why solve the problems of the world when I go to bed? I don't need to do that. And but the other thing is our stress keeps us awake. I know a lady that stays up all night, watches movies on television, and then she's complaining about, not being able to sleep at night. Well, because you're watching movies, and then she falls asleep in and out during the day. And sleep does amazing things to us. First of all, we want to build the body. When we sleep, and adults your age, all of our age, we need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I get by great on 7.5. If I'm a little tired or fatigued or coming down with a cold, maybe I'll go 8 hours, but 7 to 9 hours is what most people need. Infants need about 12 to 15 hours of sleep a night. Teenagers need about maybe 8.5, 9 to 10 hours of sleep. They're not getting that. Teenagers are on their cell phones at night. They're staying up, and they even admit that they're into that social media and losing sleep. And we know that their best performances in school, academics, is going to be when they get proper sleep. The college kids, there's only 11% of a college population that say that they get enough sleep at night. I've asked my students, how many hours of sleep do you get at night? Most of them never got more than 5 hours of sleep. That's not good. And some said even less than that. They're stressed, they're worried, they're staying up night, trying to keep up on all their courses and do all the work. But a lot of them are also fooling around. They're on social media. They go out with a gang at night. They come back late, and they go to bed at all hours. Sleep, we should be going to bed near the same time every night and wake up near the same time every morning. Also on weekends. You tell that to the college kids. What time did they go to the bed on the weekends? 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then on Sunday night, they try to go to sleep so they can get up in class in the morning on Monday. And then they can't fall asleep because for 2 days in a row, they're maybe 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they might be up too late and then try to get enough sleep to start their next week. It's just not happening. So we're the fault of so much of our own problems. The way we eat, we don't sleep properly, we don't go to bed at the same time at night. And if I go to bed late, I go to bed like 1:30 in the morning. And but that's kind of the routine that I kind of got myself into over the years. But I wake up at 8:30 in the morning. So 1:30 to 8:30 still works for me. Works very well. I'd like to get to bed a little earlier, but it just hasn't happened. We're creatures of habit and a product of our conditioning. And for me to even break out of that conditioning, even try to go to bed a half hour earlier, it's a little tough. But I still try to get that 7 hours at least a night. So we have to go to bed at the same time if we can. Avoid caffeine late in the evening. Even a lot of people say after 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon, we probably shouldn't be drinking coffee anymore. But some people learn how to drink coffee and sleep at night. You know why that happens? Is because they burn out the ability to actually develop adrenaline. The adrenal glands become affected by drinking so much caffeine. So the adrenaline doesn't even keep them up anymore. They burn out their adrenal glands to a certain respect. So even that, so avoid caffeine, alcohol. A lot of people think alcohol before you go to sleep. Oh, I got to have a glass of wine. Got to have a glass of wine. Puts me to sleep. Well, the thing is, alcohol, if you have too much alcohol, disallows deep delta sleep. Now, when it comes to our brainwave activity, we've got beta patterns going on right now, all awake. You're all awake. That's fantastic. Our brainwave activity per second right now is about 14 to 60 cycles per second. It's fast activity. It's called the beta patterns. When we relax or if we meditate a little bit, our brainwave patterns go down into alpha. That's 8 to 13 cycles per second. Very calming, very relaxed, meditating. That's alpha. Then the onset of sleep, we go to the theta patterns, Theta, theta. This is now 4 to 7 cycles per second. The theta patterns, 4 to 7, very slow. We're starting to fall asleep. You know, we've done this sometimes in lectures. And sometimes we start to go, well, we catch ourselves. We might even start dreaming a little bit, but we're reaching the theta patterns. We do it sometimes watching television. You fall asleep a little bit, boom, you're probably in theta going down to delta. Delta sleep is the deep sleep, 1 to 3 or 4 cycles per second. We have to have delta sleep. We've got to reach it 3 or 4 times a night. Our sleep patterns every 90 to 100 minutes. We go from beta, alpha, theta, delta, back up, theta, beta, theta, alpha, beta. And then it starts down again. You come back up again. You think, oh, I think maybe I have to go to the bathroom. You're aware of things again. You go down into delta sleep. Your body is like out of it. It's like a log, doesn't even move. And this is when dreaming occurs, your sleep cycles, you're down into the deepest sleep cycles. Hormones, growth hormones are released in your body only through delta sleep. Alcohol disallows delta sleep. We don't get it. So we have to go down into delta 3 or 4 times a night, every 90 to 100, 110 minutes. Varies with people. Some people reach it very quickly, other people a little slower. But we have to have delta sleep. Growth hormones are released. Your body rebuilds. There's neurotoxins that develop in the brain, actual toxins. Only the way that they get out of the body is delta sleep. We have to have delta sleep. Sleeping tablets don't even put a person into delta sleep. They found that Sominex and some of these other sleeping tablets people put into their bodies disallows delta sleep. It puts them to sleep fast, but they don't get the deep sleep. So we have to, the more natural we are, go to bed naturally. I know a guy just the other day, he's been staying up listening to late night radio and going to bed like 5 o'clock in the morning. He's done that now 2 days in a row. And then he called me on the phone the other day, says, I don't know, I can't go to sleep. I can't go to sleep when I try to go to sleep now. What's wrong with me? He says, is there a medicine I can take? I'm going to take that melatonin. Well, they found melatonin is more psychological than anything. Our body releases natural melatonin when it starts getting dark at night. Melatonin is released so we can sleep. Melatonin subsides when we go to sleep. It comes back again in the morning. Melatonin is more prevalent at night when we want to go to sleep. That's when melatonin is there. It just disappears in the morning when we want to wake up. But the sunlight kind of makes our sleep cycles. You know, if you go to a campsite, how many people have ever gone camping in the past? Okay, you know, here when you're at home and we got the lights on in the house and you're watching television, you're on the computer screen, what's happening is melatonin is not being released. So you stay up longer. You go to a campsite when there's no more lights around, no television screen and all of that. Did you ever notice what time people go to bed at a campsite? They're in bed by 9 o'clock. And you're smelling food cooking at, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30. Why is this? Because we're going back to nature. Nature puts us to sleep at 9 o'clock. It wakes us up at 6 o'clock. But with all of the lights we have, this keeps melatonin from being released when it's time to go to bed at night. So it's best to have normal sleeping patterns, stay away from caffeine, sleeping tablets, other medications that may keep you awake at night, and just let nature take over. So sleep is so important. It gets rid of stress. It builds our bodies. It strengthens our mind. We even know that people that develop dementias are not getting enough sleep. Sleep is important. And I know another thing pertaining to dementia. I think the more we get proper nutrients, we're feeding the brain. Again, not letting it decay. We're growing the neurons in the brain. The more you think and use your mind, study things, watch the news, get into what's going on, know and learn and read and study, use your creative mind, write poetry if you want to. But all of this helps keep the mind growing, not decaying. I think the problem is we're decaying mentally, physically, in many different ways. Okay, I could go on, but I don't want to. Okay. But I really do appreciate being invited, John, to come here and speak. And this is one of my students from the past. He told me, Rob Lacey was one of my students in a running class. Running to Awareness, I called it years ago, probably about 1974. He was one of my students, and I often run across people that were my students in the past. But it's great to see you and meet some of the people that I've met here today. Jim, thank you for coming to the lecture again. He's my inspiration. And the way he's going, I don't know. I don't know how long he can go on. He is amazing. So, but if we believe in ourselves and believe in a good diet and believe in natural ways of living our lives, we can't go wrong. We're going to get older. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen. But we don't have to deteriorate as fast as some people are. We can do a lot about it.